Hey everyone, welcome back to the Book Cave with me, Jenny. So today I'm doing a vlog about a trilogy of books that are written by a rather popular Japanese YouTuber. And the first one is Strange Pictures. And these are all written by Uketsu, who, as you can see, that's a little drawing of him. He is basically a Japanese YouTuber, always wears a mask, and he kind of does these little picture things, and you have to figure out what the secret is. Strange Pictures is 5 chapters, and they are called, as soon as I find the table of contents, you have The Old Woman's Prayer, The Smudged Room, The Art Teacher's Final Drawing, and then The Bird Safe in the Tree. And this is supposed to be 9 drawings, and so the first chapter is 5 of them, and this first chapter follows Shuhei Sasaki, and then his younger classmate Kurihara. They're both in college and are part of the Paranormal Society, which is kind of like a mystery solving thing. And they stumble across this blog written by a man who goes by Riku, has a wife named Yuki, who used to be a professional illustrator, and they are going to have a baby. And then all of a sudden, his blog just kind of disappears. You find out something and then it disappears for 3 years, and it's been rather obvious that those entries have been deleted. And then you work through this, and they do figure out part of the secret, but there's still a whole bunch left. However, it does say in the description that this novel invites readers to piece together the harrowing truth behind each picture and the backstory that connects them all. So, yeah, right now I'm just kind of very confused, but I'm definitely interested to continue into chapter 2 and see how that ties in, if at all. I just finished chapter 2 of Strange Pictures, and that actually brings a lot of closure to chapter 1. However, there are still quite a few questions left. This is definitely creepy. It's getting creepier with each chapter. So, yeah, if you enjoy the kind of slow horror that just kind of slowly builds, and it's like there's something wrong, but what it is, you couldn't say. Yeah, this definitely has that, and I am super curious as to how this all ends, to be honest. So I finished chapter 3 now, and yeah, everything just continues to come together in a really creepy way, although there's still 1 or 2 things from the first chapter that haven't yet. But I'm definitely interested to see in this final chapter how they come together. And I feel yeah, this chapter was the longest and also the most convoluted in a way. It had a lot of different twists and turns to it and everything. But yeah, still really enjoying this so far. So I finished Strange Pictures, and pretty much all my questions were answered, so I'm very glad about that. And yeah, there's not a whole lot I can say about this without spoiling it, but the way everything connects was just really interesting, and all the little things that you could find in this were also just really interesting and explained really well. And then there are 2 more books in this little set that Uketsu has written, we have strange houses and strange buildings. So I am looking forward to reading those as well. So Strange Houses is obviously another Uketsu book. And this one, instead of it being pictures, it is a house layout. And this one follows a writer fascinated by the macabre, who is, I believe, they said it was Kurihara. Let me see here. Okay, no. So the narrator is actually unnamed. He has a friend named Yanioka, and so Yanioka says, "Hey, I'm looking for a house. You kind of know about houses. This is what I'm interested in. Here is the layout." And so he sends him this little thing that shows, where everything is. And because our narrator is like, okay, I kind of know about houses, but I'm going to ask Kurihara. And if I remember correctly, Kurihara was also like the investigator in Strange Pictures. But in this first chapter, we have kind of a lot of like little different things here, because like this is the section where he talks to Kurihara, and then you can see like their messaging, so you have like that. And then as they do it, then you get to this place where it's still the same conversation, but now they're talking about the two different bathrooms. And yeah, the thing that Kurihara comes up with for why this is kind of made like that, I'm kind of like, why would he jump to that? But at the same time, when you end this chapter, you kind of get a hint that, okay, maybe he was right, even though it's kind of like, why, how, just, yeah, definitely very interesting. And one thing that we do see is, and it is mentioned pretty quickly, is you can see here is a child's room, and you can see that it's kind of like boxed in. There's no windows. And then you can see down here, that's just an empty space. There's no way to get into it for like storage or anything. So yeah, that's kind of what starts this. And then another thing I really enjoy is the chapter titles. So the first one is it's pretty simple, A Strange House. And that's obviously this floor plan that I've just shown you. And then chapter 2 is another warped floor plan. Chapter 3 is Drawn from Memory. And chapter 4 is House of Chains. So I'm wondering if each one is going to be about a different house. I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, definitely finding this very interesting, the same as with Strange Pictures. And it's obviously reading very fast because, there's so many like close-ups of different things in the floor plans to illustrate what they're talking about, and just like the way it's laid out. I think I actually prefer this layout to the one of Strange Pictures. But yeah, I'm going to go on and read some more. So I finished the second chapter now, and I really enjoy how everything's related in this book, the same as with the first one. So I mentioned in the first chapter, we had the one house and you saw the layout. And then you find out this house in the second chapter, different house, different layout, but it was owned by the same family. And so you kind of go through that and you think one thing, learn something else. I was very suspicious of the one character, but then once we finish that chapter, I'm less suspicious of her. But let's just say she is the sister of the woman who owned both houses. And then we find out at the end of this chapter that something strange happened in her grandparents' house as well. So then, obviously, now, chapter 3, we're going to get her grandparents' house layout. And I'm wondering if there's going to be like a dead space there or something like that. This is just like, it's really interesting. This one I would say is less horror and more mystery, whereas I would say, honestly, Strange Pictures was kind of more of a horror. However, Uketsu really does good with the suspense and the twists and turns. So yeah, definitely enjoying this, and I'm kind of really wanting to, as soon as I finish this, start Strange Buildings, but I don't think I'm going to because I have a whole stack of books from the library that's due before that. This one is actually due back in like 2 days, which is the whole reason I picked it up now. I do have books that are due sooner. This one was supposed to be renewable, and somebody else has put it on hold. So, but yeah, kind of a little aside there. But yeah, I'm going to continue reading and see what happened at the grandparents' house now. I finished chapter 3 about the grandparents' house, and yeah, we definitely have much more of a full plot now, and we're kind of understanding where things are going. But I still have a bunch of questions about, like, why? Why was it done? Supposedly all this stuff was built for murders, but why? Just why? And I'm really hoping the 4th chapter clears that up. So I did say we had Mie had come in the 2nd chapter, and then we find out it's her grandparents' house in the 3rd. The 4th chapter, she has now been contacted by her estranged mother, who wants to meet with her. She's nervous about it, so she asks the author to go with her. And yeah, I feel like this is a very quick read, although the plot doesn't necessarily move that fast. It's just with the way it's written in kind of like a uh, interview style almost. Yeah, but definitely interested to see how this ends and how it all ties up, because the first one definitely tied up in an interesting way, and I feel like this one will as well. I finished Strange Houses, and yeah, I highly recommend this. If you like mysteries, if you like horror, if you like thrillers, this definitely has that. It is more of that slow, creeping horror than out and out, like a slasher movie jump scare sort of horror thing. But it's also more of like, there's deeper reasoning behind it, I feel like, as well. Um, but yeah, that last chapter wrapped everything up very nicely. And then I love how, like, the last sentence of the book kind of makes you rethink several things, or not necessarily rethink them, but it kind of like points back to the beginning, like, hey, remember this? What actually was this? And yeah, it's not just like handed to you. And I did really, really enjoy that. In the translator notes, it does say this was kind of intended for all ages. I would say it's definitely not a YA, because I do feel like some of the stuff is pretty, I don't know, gory and disturbing. Well, it's not really gory. There's not much described. It's just like, oh, this happened. And it doesn't go into the details of it. But yeah, that thing that happened is still disturbing. And, obviously with it being like a murder mystery, you can imagine what I'm talking about. But yeah, overall, highly, highly recommended. And I know I said before that I was probably going to hold off on Strange Buildings. At this point, I don't know, because I really want to read that now. And the translator even says at the end of his note, he says, if you thought this book was wild, just wait for Strange Buildings. So, yeah, really happy with this reading experiences, for sure. And I will be back when I start the next one. Strange Buildings is the final book that has been published by Uketsu so far, and this one is at least somewhat related to Strange Houses in the fact that it is still about strange layouts of different places. This is the longest one, obviously, and this one has 11 chapters. I've read the first 4, and that is The Hallway to Nowhere, Nurturing Darkness, and The Watermill in the Woods. So I'm sorry, I read the first 3 plus the little introduction. So far, I can tell how the first 2 are connected, but the last one I cannot. So the first one is about a strange house that has a hallway to nowhere. And this one, we do get the reason why there was that hallway. However, it does say at the end of that chapter, there was more to it than just this. So I'm assuming somehow everything else is going to tie in. Then chapter 2 is about not necessarily a strange house, but a poorly laid out house. And this one also comes to a resolution, and this one doesn't specifically say like there's more to it, but it does definitely seem like there could be. And then the third chapter is about a little freestanding water wheel house. And yeah, that one was very unsettling. I would say, honestly, that one and the second one were very unsettling. The first one was honestly just kind of tragic. But yeah, this is very simply written and very accessible, I feel like. And I do remember reading in Strange Houses that that was kind of done on purpose, that is what Uketsu had meant. He wanted it to be easily accessible. One thing that does bother me a little bit is that all the dialogue is written almost as a screenplay. Like, it says, like, the author, what did you mean by that? And then, like, interviewee, oh, this is what I meant. There's, like, no actual dialogue, which has been in, I believe, Strange Houses as well. I don't fully remember if Strange Pictures had that. I don't think that one did. That one actually was just had like normal dialogue. And while I don't necessarily mind the interviews, I do feel like at sometimes it is a little jarring the way it's broken up, because there will be little interjections like she shifted uncomfortably in her chair, and then it'll go back to the interview format. But yeah, definitely interesting, and I'm kind of excited to see how these all tie together and to see what other sort of mysteries we come up. I made it up to chapter 7 in Strange Houses last night, And I have some thoughts on my little piece of paper here that I will read off. So in chapter 4, which is the Mousetrap House, we follow a young girl, her grandmother, who lived together in a house that was built specifically for them. The girl's mother and father live elsewhere for work reasons, and this follows what happens during a sleepover with one of the girl's classmates. And while this was again very straightforward, I do feel like the conclusion drawn from it was a little odd, but I guess I kind of do see where that could come from. Then, chapter 5 is the house where it happened, and I actually learned something relatively interesting in this. The house in this story is 26 years old, and it's stated that most Japanese houses rarely make it past 30 years without being torn down. And then this one ties back in with chapter 3 quite neatly and ends again on a cliffhanger, which kind of made me a little bit mad. I'm like, really? I want to know. Then chapter 6 is the Hall of Rebirth, which is probably the strangest chapter I have read in here so far. And this one deals with a cult. And then we do learn some connections to the rest of the stories, though it's still all very tenuous and just kind of like in the background. Then chapter 7 is called Uncle's House. This one doesn't so much have a strange house or strange building as it is just a very sad series of journal entries of a young boy. But then we do learn one thing that ties it in to, I'm not going to say everything, but into certain other things. I am really enjoying this, though. It's very atmospherically written as well. Like, I get the creeps reading it, and they're kind of like those slow little creepy crawly creeps, not the just 100% oh creep done sort of thing. But yeah, I am right now at page 169 is where chapter 8 starts. And then I did not realize that we have, like I said, 11 chapters. And, but then this is where the actual chapters end. All of this is Kurihara's deductions. And obviously, he is the author's friend from the first book and decides to help him out with the mysteries in this one as well. And I am really enjoying like the illustration part of it. It's interesting to see that and to see if you can figure it out with that help before the characters fully do. So I've finished Strange Houses now, and the last chapters, I can find the table of contents, were chapter 8, The String Phone, 9, Footsteps to Murder, 10, No Escape, and 11, The Vanishing Room. And 8 and 9 were a rather interesting duo of stories. I will say that they were very highly connected to each other and somewhat connected to the others, but definitely more highly to each other. Then No Escape was another very sad one and was also one that was kind of a key to the whole mystery. And then The Vanishing Room was, I will say, not really a conclusion because it just it wasn't super connected to everything else. It was connected in one way that pretty much everything was, quite obviously. And then, of course, we have Kurihara's deductions, which is almost a whole third of the book. And I feel like that was done very well. It was explained very well. And I do feel like that was done in all three of these books. But yeah, there were a couple things that I was like, okay, why exactly did that happen? And I do feel like that was addressed in here. And yeah, this one was honestly quite sad. I feel like it was a lot sadder than Strange Houses, although that one obviously was really sad as well. But this is one, I know it's gotten kind of mixed reviews, this whole series, but I did enjoy it as a kind of light mystery. And I feel like if you go into it knowing that, then yeah, you can really enjoy it. So we've come to the end of our video now. As always, thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. That way you'll be notified every time I post a new video, and feel free to let me know down below in the comments. Have you read these books? Did you enjoy them? Do you enjoy mysteries? What mysteries have you read? Anything like that. I always love talking to you all, like I always say, and I will see you next time in the book cave.